Good afternoon, everyone. We can do better than that. I know it's lunchtime-ish, but good afternoon, everyone. Wonderful. My name is Angela Thorpe, and I have the pleasure of serving as the director of the North Carolina African American Heritage Commission. We are so glad to welcome you here today to help us fulfill our mission, which is to preserve, promote, and protect North Carolina's African American history, arts, and culture for all people. We're excited to do this today. This is one of my favorite events of each year because it's so powerful as we sit and mingle with one another, as we explore whatever space that we're in, as we listen to the words that are spoken up here. We are, I think, as a collective body, celebrating the power of the pen, the African American voice, and African American stories that connect right to North Carolina soil. And so I ask that you honor these stories today and that you enjoy this beautiful space that we're in. And to that point, I want to thank a few of our partners for today. Of course, we are in this amazing space, Pure Life Theater. So I want to thank them for lending this space to us today. I also want to thank the State Library of North Carolina, North Carolina Historic Sites, the North Carolina Arts Council, Wake County Library, most especially Richard B. Harrison Library. You're going to see some of our Richard B. Harrison top teens throughout the space today. If you're a top teen, would you raise your hand, say hey? Don't be shy. Okay. Yeah, so they're helping keep us organized and they're helping us run things today, which is really, really amazing. I do want to note that today we have a number of different activities. So right outside of the theater, there is a kids corner. So there are coloring sheets and there are some of my favorite things, snacks. So you can feel free to enjoy those. And throughout this space, you'll see books that are laid out. Those are yours to take. So we are giving away books today. In the library, you will have the opportunity to connect with a number of different groups, including several of our North Carolina state historic sites. You can also stop to meet Zoe, who leads Zoe's bookmarks and reading accessories. She's got some of her bookmarks for sale. Or you can stop right next to her and meet Langston. He is the creative director for Liberation Station, and he can explain to you more information about the great work that Liberation Station is doing. So again, I want to welcome you all here today. And with that, we will get started with our first set of readings. So I'm going to take just a little bit of time to read to you some biographies of people that I am very inspired by. Of course, today we are reading works that are inspired by the book My NC from A to Z, which is written by Michelle Lanier and illustrated by Derek Coulter, who is in the lobby today doing live painting, and some of her artwork from the book is in the lobby as well. And so you're going to hear, again, works that are inspired by figures in this book. And one of Dare's most powerful paintings in this book to me is the one around songs and music. And there are a couple of people in that image that are dancing and that are swaying. And so I thought, why not read about some ballet dancers who are Black and either from North Carolina or have North Carolina connections. So I'm going to read a couple of biographies to you. Give me a second to take off my paper clip. Okay. So how many of you have heard of the dancer Deborah Austin? Okay, so we're all learning today. She is featured in our book, and I should mention she is still with us. She lives in Charlotte, North Carolina today. Deborah Austin was born on July 25th, 1955. She's an American ballet dancer who rose to prominence in 1982 as the first African American female principal dancer of a major American ballet company. She was also the first African American female dancer at the New York City Ballet. She currently serves as a ballet mistress for the Carolina Ballet, again in Charlotte. Deborah Austin received a scholarship to the School of American Ballet when she was 12, and at 16, she was handpicked by George Blanchin to join the New York City Ballet. While at New York City Ballet, Deborah danced many principal roles by both Blanchin and Jerome Robbins, one of which was filmed for a PBS television special, Live from Lincoln Center. She later joined the Zurich Ballet in Switzerland, where she danced principal roles in works by all of the major choreographers. Miss Austin toured with the company throughout Europe, and after her return to the United States, she was invited to join Pennsylvania Ballet as a principal dancer, making her the first African American woman to reach the rank of principal dancer in a major American ballet company. At the Pennsylvania Ballet, Austin danced in Swan Lake, A Midsummer Night's Dream, as well as others. She went on to assist Lynn Taylor Corbett in Miss Taylor Corbett's ballet, The Dancing Princesses, and in Florida was a preliminary judge for the National Foundation for the Advancement of the Arts. Austin retired from dancing in 1990. She has taught ballet at the American Cultural Center, Palm Beach Dance Center, the Miami City Ballet School, and Cary Ballet Conservatory. And again, she is still with us right here in North Carolina. So for my second biography, I am going to speak to another ballerina who is in Charlotte as well. Ballerina Aisha Nell McMillan Cravata was born on February 12, 1978 in Golden Valley, Minnesota. In 1981, McMillan moved with her family to Oak Park, Illinois. McMillan began to dance at the age of 2 at the Academy of Movement and Music and soon dreamed of becoming a ballerina. At the age of 11, McMillan joined Momenta, the resident dance company of the Academy of Movement and Music. From 1989 to 1993, she danced with the Bryant Ballet, based in Chicago, where Homer Hans Bryant, former principal dancer with the Dance Theater of Harlem, became her mentor. With the Bryant Ballet, McMillan flourished in the multicultural environment where classical ballet and African dance forms were explored side by side. At a young age, McMillan made extraordinary sacrifices for her craft. During the summer months, beginning in 1989, she attended Boston Ballet School in Massachusetts, where she was mentored by the ballet great, Elaine Bauer. In addition, McMillan was selected for private instruction by Asaf and Mikhail Messerer of the Bolsey Ballet. Later, Messerer lived in McMillan's Oak Park home, where he taught her personally. She also received pre-professional intensive training in classical ballet and early American modern dance. She traveled between Oak Park, Boston, and Houston, and trained with the Houston Ballet during her summer breaks. In 1990, at age 12, McMillan danced in the Soviet American ballet production of Coppelia. She also attended the Soviet American Ballet School. At 13, she attended the von Heideck Ballet School. In 1992, when McMillan was just 14 years old, she won a full scholarship to the Houston Ballet Academy. After high school, McMillan attended Rice University, where she graduated as an anthropology and art history major while dancing professionally with the Houston Ballet. In 2002, McMillan left Texas and joined the North Carolina Dance Theater, where she danced in A Midsummer's Night's Dream, among other productions. In 2004, she became the first African-American dancer to play the role of Clara in The Nutcracker at the North Carolina Dance Theater. McMillan retired from the stage in 2007 at the age of 29. She currently serves as a director of Charlotte Ballet Academy. Thank you, everyone. And with that, Darryl.
Good afternoon. My name is Darryl Stover. I'm a cultural historian, science communicator, poet on the faculty at North Carolina State University. I will be actually presenting to you a very special person for me because I'm a cultural historian of Black music, especially jazz. And so coming out of a little small town just outside of Elizabeth City, a place called Newland, Max Roach, drummer, composer, was born. Now, his legacy covers from the 40s all the way into the 2000s, and he was instrumental in establishing bebop-era jazz with the likes of Dizzy Gillespie, another North Carolinian by the name of Thelonious Monk, Bud Powell, Charlie Parker, and others. And he's special to me because I wrote a poem for him. I'm not going to share that today, but I had the opportunity to share that with him at the Duke Ellington School for the Arts back, we won't say when. But what I've done is I've brought one of his albums here. This is his album, Max Roach, Drums Unlimited. He also has a very special album that he did with his wife at the time, Abby Lincoln, called We Insist, which on the album cover, it recreates the Greensboro sit-in at the Woolworths. In order to honor this jazz great, and he being a drummer and composer, it's appropriate to do this with drums. So I brought my son, percussionist Darryl Stover, to assist me with that. And what I will be reading is, actually, there is the archival collection at the Library of Congress, all of his papers and other materials that were donated in 2012. Max Roach was born in 1924 and passed in 2007. But the Max Roach Papers cover a period from 1880 to 2012, 1880 being the earliest documents in the archive related to his family's presence up there in northeastern North Carolina. And so, the Max Roach Papers. The collection is not only a comprehensive representation of Roach's music and performing career, but also a dynamic portrayal of the personalities and cultural forces behind jazz in the United States and abroad in the latter half of the 20th century. It includes music, manuscripts, writings, correspondence, business papers, photographs, programs, sound recordings, and other materials related to his career. Consists of manuscripts and printed scores, parts, sketches, lead sheets, transcriptions, methods, and lyric sheets for works performed, composed, or owned by Max Roach. The majority of Roach's original compositions are almost entirely in his own hand. There are several holograph manuscripts of Hassan Ibn Ali and other items by such composers as Cecil Bridgewater, Stanley Cowell, Billy Harper, Jimmy Heath, Clifford Jordan, Frederick Tillis, and Randy Weston. The writing series includes Making a Way Out of No Way, a collection of interviews and collaboration with Amiri Baraka with Roach that was conducted in 1995. Roach's writings loosely date from the 1960s and 70s and consist of notes and essays on a host of charged issues: negative connotations of jazz, discrimination against African American jazz musicians, civil rights and militant activism, and many other subjects. Interspersed among these are writings by Abby Lincoln about similarly somber topics. Roach's prolific collaborations with numerous performers, activists, poets, and other cultural figures is responsible for the large amount of original material by others represented throughout this collection. Particularly within the writings included are works by Amiri Baraka, Sonia Sanchez, Nina Simone, and Fela Sawandi. Roach's correspondence file contains letters, notes, and business papers from many of the foremost jazz performers and cultural figures of the 20th century. These include Maya Angelou, Dizzy Gillespie, Philly Joe Jones, Abby Lincoln, Charles Mingus, Sonny Rollins, Gunther Schuller, and hundreds of others. Additional correspondence is present in a voluminous series of files that document musical and cultural projects, tours and performances, legal matters, endorsements, awards, and honors, and other subjects of interest to Roach. Many of these pertain to the business affairs of Max Roach Industries and Milma Music, companies in which Roach was a founding member. Photographs in the collection are similarly expansive. The majority form a chronological series of event files that document Roach's performances and social gatherings from roughly the late 1940s through the 2000s. Additional sub-series of photographs include portraits and candid shots of Roach alone, family gatherings, and a collection of albums centered around tours or specific events. Through local collaborations and international touring, Roach accumulated a diverse body of printed materials related to jazz, civil rights, and African American culture. Some of these he personally solicited, while others he received indirectly by way of participation in events or mailings. Roach was particularly interested in African music and drumming, art, and African nationalism. His focus on civil rights abuses within the United States and abroad eventually grew to include issues of humanitarian crises and religious persecution as well. I read this excerpt as a ways and means of understanding how we collate and gather the artifacts of history and the significant aspects of the life and times of special individuals such as Max Roach. I encourage you to visit not only the archives here at our state library and on campuses across our state, but more importantly, find time to go to the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. Having grown up there, it was one of those places that encouraged, informed, and inspired me as a historian. Thank you. And thank you, Darius.
Thank you. A nice segue. I appreciate the reference to libraries and archives. So I'm Timothy Owens. I'm the state librarian, and some of you may not realize that there is a state library. So I want to give a little plug first before I get into my reading. So there is a state library. We serve libraries across the state, as well as state government and local history and genealogy researchers. We're located downtown, just across from the governor's mansion, but we also have access to resources remotely, and we have a pop-up out in the lobby here that I hope you will check out. If you don't have a library card with us, you can register for one today, and that will open up worlds to you, I hope. In addition, we have recently started expanding our resources for African American history in North Carolina and African American genealogy. We have started some coursework in this, so please be sure to check that out. And in addition, our librarians have curated and collated resources to accompany the My NC from A to Z book, so you can go for additional information on all of the topics in that volume. Seems like we have a theme starting out here today. S is for song, and so music speaks to me, and so that's what I've selected as well. And on that page, one of the artists from North Carolina mentioned is John Coltrane. His album, A Love Supreme, is one of the most influential pieces of music in the 20th century. And in the liner notes, he wrote, "In the year of 1957, I experienced, by the grace of God, a spiritual awakening, which was to lead me to a richer, fuller, more productive life." He had struggled with addiction off and on and didn't always stay on that path. He also noted in those notes, "As time and events moved on, I entered into a phase which is contradictory to the pledge and away from the esteemed path. But thankfully now, through the merciful hand of God, I too perceive and have been fully reinformed of his omnipotence. It is truly a love supreme." Coltrane, I want to note before I read this, that Coltrane was always careful to say that while he was raised Christian, his searchings had led him to realize that all religions had a piece of the truth. So I hope that no matter your faith or your path, some of these words will resonate with you. A love supreme. I will do all I can to be worthy of thee, O Lord. It all has to do with it. Thank you, God. Peace. There is none other. God is. It is so beautiful. Thank you, God. God is all. Help us to resolve our fears and weaknesses. Thank you, God. In you all things are possible. We know God made us so. Keep your eye on God. God is. He always was. He always will be. No matter what, it is God. He is gracious and merciful. It is most important that I know thee. Words, sounds, speech, men, memory, thoughts, fears, and emotions, time, all related, all made from one, all made in one. Blessed be his name. Thought waves, heat waves, all vibrations, all paths lead to God. Thank you, God. His way, it is so lovely, it is gracious, it is merciful. Thank you, God. One thought can produce millions of vibrations, and they all go back to God. Everything does. Thank you, God. Have no fear. Believe. Thank you, God. The universe has many wonders. God is all. His way, it is so wonderful. Thoughts, deeds, vibrations, etc. They all go back to God, and he cleanses all. He is gracious and merciful. Thank you, God. Glory to God. God is so alive. God is. God loves. May I be acceptable in thy sight. We are all one in his grace. The fact that we do exist in acknowledgement of thee, O Lord. Thank you, God. God will wash away all our tears. He always has. He always will. Seek him every day. In all ways, seek God every day. Let us sing all songs to God, to whom all praise is due. Praise God. No road is an easy one, but they all go back to God. With all we share God. It is all with God. It is all with thee. Obey the Lord. Blessed is he. We are from one thing, the will of God. Thank you, God. I have seen God. I have seen ungodly. None can be greater. None can compare to God. Thank you, God. He will remake us. He always has, and he always will. It is true. Blessed be his name. Thank you, God. God breathes us so completely, so gently we hardly feel it, yet it is our everything. Thank you, God. Elation, elegance, exultation, all from God. Thank you, God. Amen.
Good afternoon. My name is Tiana Godwin, and I'm here with the Top Teens of America Wendell chapter. I will be reading Crown by Rhapsody, but first I'm going to tell you her biography. Her name is Marlana Evans. She was born January 21st, 1983, better known by her stage name Rhapsody. She is an American rapper from Snow Hill, North Carolina. Rhapsody began her career at North Carolina State University, where she joined hip-hop collective H2O and its spinoff group Cooley High, despite not having rapped before. Rhapsody is known for her intricate rhyme patterns, metaphors, and wordplay, which she describes this phrase in an interview with Vibe magazine, where she says, "To me, it's about culture more than money or anything. I make music for the people of the culture we're in. That comes first. If you touch the people first, the rest just falls into place. That's what it means to me, just preserving and respecting the culture." Hey, you there? Where's your crown? You didn't leave the house without your crown, did you? Just as sure as the earth is round, we bounce back up when they throw us down. So don't forget your crown. And hold your head high like you caught a glimpse of God through the crowds and you stuck in awe. Don't worry, we got y'all. Mind and body and mind, tell them homies, the world is bigger than your street and mine. And that color in this and every shade of our skin is rich. Knowing your future depends on our involvement. So block boys, it's in our hands more than parliament. That's responsibility, my brother's keeper, my sister's big sister. Life full of limits, we just gotta add a little sugar too. To those sweet dreams, you can be anything. Go further than me, be better than him, climb higher than her, and never let him knock your crown. That's my word. All hands on deck, making queens and kings of all cards we dealt. Let's go. I lied to my mama one time when I was 11. Riding in the car, she told me summer won't forget it. Truth gon' chase the light no matter what night that you said it. It make me feel so low, she peeled my feelings back like lettuce. With no salad, told me save all the carriage for the ballads. Now I'm dropping jewels as if we gave up on the marriage. I know it's hard to handle, we ain't come here in no carriage. The hood is for the rain and where they throw us in the barracks, where we learn to master beats without a panther or a ferret. It came out in the 80s, same as me, I was a baby. And what I learned about life is, Lord is sure is not the fairest. If your skin ain't as fair as all the Beckys, Tiffany's, and Sarah's, black don't crack, Obama ain't flinched. I sat inside the White House having conversations. How boys turn to men if we show them more than rims. If they jumping high for the rims, ain't a goal that we cannot win. I'm setting peaks for you and them, I hope you roll off. Million black graduates, woo, just go and show off. Reaching out to everyone from the top of the block, y'all. Eliminate pictures we grew up with. What's the curveball? I made something out of nothing, better out of worse. Take care of your own. I know I got to do that first. I know there's power in my time. I know there's power in a verse. Tell a kid good job and tell him go hard on the work. You know the world you grew up in is very small compared to earth. It's the worst they lied and told you your limits on the future. If life ain't a rules, rule whatever you dream you can do. They tell me I'm a king, they tell me I'm a queen. If life ain't a rules, rule whatever you dream you can do. They tell me I'm a king, they tell me I'm a queen.
So Rhapsody's one of my favorite MCs. Thank you for that. That was dope. My name is Jermaine Main Man Monroe, and I am a spoken word artist. I'm actually the 2019 Triad Spoken Word Artist of the Year, and I'm nominated to be the 2020 Spoken Word Artist of the Year for feature highlights. My title is, I'm director of a after-school program called Make a Difference Every Day. And I'm also an artist / activist. The reason I chose the piece that I'm speaking to you, reading to you guys today is because I believe that life is a marathon and there's only one race, the human race. I just think that we have to pass the baton off to each other from time to time. You know, there's different cultures, different nationalities, but only one race. And I think that we all, once we realize that, we'll all win together, you know? So the name of my piece is called If the World Were a Village. If the world were a village, it would smell like hard work. Blood, sweat, and tears would water the seeds sown from hard dirt. The air would be pollution-free, full of music and poetry. Information would be shared knowingly, and everyone would know each other cordially. Stories would be passed down historically through our ancestors in the form of folklore. Generational gap conversations would be everything that you ever hoped for. Words of wisdom would be chiseled out of mountains and made into monuments. Digital hieroglyphic type documents would be filled with our accomplishments. If the world were a village, the food would be delicious and nutritious. And even the china would be eco-edible type friendly, so no one would have to do the dishes. But someone would be doing someone's hair, or someone else was out doing a good deed, and everyone would be helping to raise up these children to ensure they became a good seed. If the world were a village, we would grow a masterful garden that we could all eat in. The fruits of our labor would nourish our very atoms up under the tree of life every evening. Racism will become erased. Classism will reach completion. There'll be no crimes or corruption, no need for politicians or policemen. We will kindly just police ourselves, concentrate on our good health. We would care for one another because love will be the equivalent of wealth. Charity would be the new currency, and currently, everyone would be a millionaire. Killing people with kindness would be the only kind of killing there. If the world were a village, our clothes would be so comfortable. Organically made and built to last, to do any and everything that you would want to do. Living in harmony will feel warm, just like your grandma's quilt. And the only crying that would be heard would be over just a little spilt milk. If the world were a village, it'd be as beautiful for as far as the eye could see. And if we start right here, right now, it probably still could be, but only if. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tamika Fryer Brown, and I am a children's book author. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, lived there for more than half my life, so I definitely claim it as home. And I have currently 3 picture books on the market. The first one is called Around Our Way on Neighbor's Day. And this one is about a multicultural community who is celebrating each other on Neighbor's Day. And my second book is what I call spoken word for children. It is My Cold Plum Lemon Pie Bluesy Mood. And it is about feelings and emotions as expressed through the metaphor of color. And the book that I'm going to be reading for you today is my latest. It just came out in January, and it's called Brown Baby Lullaby. And the theme that runs through all of these books is family love and Black joy. And what better concept to be talking about during Black History Month than Black joy? So I'm going to put this microphone down because I can't hold the pictures up and And this is a brand spanking new book, so it might be pages get stuck a little bit, so you just bear with me. Look, me, Eho, at the sun, setting now that day is done. Moonlight's breaking, night's begun. Come, my sweet brown baby. Zoom through every open door, round the room and hit the floor. Bounce back up and zoom some more. Slow down, busy baby. Muy activo, in you go. Hush now, here's your lovey. Ho! No, no, baby, we don't throw. No, no, antsy baby. Pots and pans all scattered round, right side up and upside down. Clanging, banging, noisy sound. Noisy, rowdy baby. Time to put the pots away. Bring them out some other day. Tired tears mean no more play. Vamos, fussy baby. Hands together as we bless food that will wind up a mess. That's okay. You're learning. Yes, independent baby. Pour the cups and sink the sub. Grab a sponge to squeeze and rub. Keep some agua in the tub, silly splashy baby. Yummy tummy, kissy cheeks, tight black curls with glossy streaks, clean and fresh and toddler chic, one enchanting baby. 2 brown eyes, 1 brown nose, 10 brown fingers, 10 brown toes. Love and cherish all of those. Poppy's brilliant baby. Rub your eyes to Coltrane's song, babble, clap, and stomp along. Fight that Sandman till he's gone, strong-willed, sleepy baby. Find your favorite book and then Mama reads it once again. Lie you down and tuck you in. Buenas noches, baby. We love you. Sweet brown baby. The end.
Thank you. So we're going to take a quick break and introduce you to some of our partners who helped put today's event together. They're going to talk to you a little bit about what you can experience at each of their individual sites. So hopefully you can pay them a visit. So, Khadijah?
So hi everybody, my name is Khadijah. I'm the assistant site manager at Historic Stagville. We are a state historic site. Stagville is the site of what once was one of the largest plantations in North Carolina. We know that about 900 people were enslaved at Stagville at one time, and we invite you all to come to our site and learn a little bit more about the history of slavery in North Carolina. We do have 3 historic buildings that we tour through regularly, and we give all types of events throughout the year. So we have a table set up out there, and please come and talk to me a little bit more and get one of our event cards.
Good afternoon. My name is Natalie Rodriguez. I am I have 2 roles. I am the education coordinator at the North Carolina State Capitol, and we have a table today outside. Please come to our table. We're doing an activity today that involves voting. So since we have I for ice cream and A through Z, we're going to be voting on ice cream flavors today. So we would love for you to come out. We're open 6 days out of the week. And so you can come and do a guided tour, a self-guided, excuse me. We are undergoing some construction project right now. So you may not be able to see the whole building, but we would love for you to come back. We also have an exhibit right now, She Changed the World, which is currently going on at the Capitol too. Yes, so, and I'm sorry, in the book, we have A from Abraham Galloway. So please, we can talk about him a little bit more outside, as well as George Henry White. He's in the book. Yes, so thank you all for coming today. We really appreciate it.
Hi everyone, my name is Alexis Tobias and I'm from the historic Edenton State Historic Site. In historic Edenton, we operate on Tuesday through Saturday from 9 to 5. So if you'd like to come visit us, we have 3 historic sites in our town, and we do colonial through revolutionary and 19th century history as well. Today we have a table about Harriet Jacobs, who features in my NC from A to Z. So if you are interested in learning more about her life, please come see us outside. We also offer guided walking tours throughout the year as well if you find yourself in Edenton. So thank you very much.
Thank you. So just a couple of housekeeping announcements and reminders. Again, we do have these folks that you can visit in the lobby. Just outside of this theater space, you can meet the artist for my NC from A to Z, Dare Coulter, who illustrated the book. She is doing live painting, and she is an amazing ray of sunshine. So do not be afraid to say hey, to speak to her, to talk to her about her work and her craft. You will also see some original artwork from the book as well. So that is a really, really rare treat. So again, please talk to Dare, connect to her, and take a look at some of her artwork, as well as the piece she's creating now. I'm trying to figure it out. She always surprises me with what with her creativity. There is a kids corner out here. And so for kids and adults who may want some snacks, some stickers, or to color on coloring sheets, you can connect to those as well. And any book that you see right outside of this theater space that's kind of lingering or decorative, that is yours to take. We are giving away books today. And then finally, again, today is inspired by the children's book written by Michelle Lanier and illustrated by Dare Coulter, My NC from A to Z. Those children's board books are on sale today just outside of this space, and Dare can sign your book today if you would like her to sign that. So please take advantage of all of the resources that we have here today. It's really a treat. So next, I am going to invite up Morgan Massenberg, one of our top teens from Richard B. Harrison Library, and we'll get started with the reading again. Morgan.
I'm Morgan, like she said. I'm from Top Teens of America, and today I'll be reading Alone by Maya Angelou, but I'll give you her biography. Maya Angelou, born Margaret Annie Johnson, was born April 4th, 1928, but passed on May 28, 2014. Maya Angelou was an American poet, singer, and civil rights activist. She published 7 autobiographies, 3 books of essays, several books of poetry, and is credited with a list of plays, movies, and television shows spanning over 50 years. She received dozens of awards and more than 50 honorary degrees. Angelou is best known for her series of 7 autobiographies, which focus on her childhood and early adult experiences. The first, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, 1969, tells her life at the age of 17 and brought her international recognition and acclaim. In 1982, she was named the first Reynolds Professor of American Studies at Wake Forest University in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. In 1993, Angelou recited her poem on the Post of Mourning 1993 at the first inauguration of Bill Clinton, making her first poet an inaugural citation since Robert Frost's inauguration of John F. Kennedy, 1961. Alone, Maya Angelou. Lying, thinking, last night, how to find my soul a home, where water is not thirsty and bread loaf is not stone. I came up with one thing, and I don't believe I'm wrong, that nobody, but nobody, can make it out here alone. Alone, all alone, nobody, but nobody, can make it out here alone. There are millionaires with money they can't use. Their wives run around like banshees. Their children sings the blues. They've got expensive doctors to cure their hearts of stone. But nobody, no nobody, can make it out here alone. Alone, all alone, nobody, but nobody, can make it out here all alone. Now if you listen closely, I'll tell you what I know. Storm clouds are gathering, the wind is gonna blow. The race of man is suffering, and I can hear them moan, 'cause nobody, but nobody, can make it out here alone. Alone, all alone, nobody, but nobody, can make it out here alone.
Say your name first. Okay, I'll say it. Good afternoon. This is Eve Schramm. She's a second grader at Parkwood Elementary School in Durham, and she's going to read Freedom on the Menu about the Greensboro sit-ins.
Just about every week, Mama and I went shopping downtown. I loved her all to myself for the afternoon. Wherever it was hot or we got tired, we'd head over to the snack bar at the 5 and dime store. We'd stand as we sipped our Cokes because we weren't allowed to sit at the lunch counter. Once I watched a girl swivel a stool as she spooned a banana split. In an empty seat beside her was a purse almost exactly like mine. "Can I have a banana split?" I begged Mama. "Not here, Connie," said Mama. "I'll fix you one at home." "It won't be the same," I grumbled. All over town, signs told Mama and me where we could and couldn't go. Signs on water fountains, swimming pools, movie theaters, even bathrooms. Everybody I knew obeyed the signs except my great aunt Gertie from New York. Once when she visited us, she drank from a whites-only fountain and said real loud, "I've never heard of colored water. Have you, Connie?" Then she lifted me up so I could take a sip. I looked from the fountain. "Y'all know better than that," a man scolded. I tried to say, "Sorry, mister," but Aunt Gertie just huffed. "I'm too old for silly rules." It was all real hot day, but the man walked away without taking a drink. There weren't any signs up at the 5 and dime, but we still knew how it was. Most people didn't accept change anytime soon, but Daddy and I thought different. Dr. King's coming to town, he told us. One morning, "Who's sick?" I asked. "He's not that kind of doctor, Connie. He's not that kind of doctor. He's a minister who's working to make things better for us," said Daddy. "So we can go anywhere we please," said Mama. "Like the lunch counter?" I asked. "Yep," said Daddy, "and other places too." Later that week, our whole family went to hear Dr. King preach at the college chapel. I didn't really understand all of his speech, but I liked his booming voice. It sounded as if he believed God was on our side. Every few minutes, Mama said amen. When Dr. King sat down, everybody stood and clapped for a long time. Soon after that, my brother and sister joined the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Everybody called it the NAACP. They let me tag along as they went door to door, helping people sign up to vote. I've never voted in my life, said a white-haired lady leaning on a cane. Will I get to vote for president? Yes, ma'am, I said. My brother wants to be president when he's all the way grown. Tell him he's got my vote, she chuckled. And hold on to those big dreams, she said, handing me her voter resignation form. Yes, ma'am, I'll tell him, I promised, thinking about my own dreams too. Times are changing, she said, waving as I left. Then one day, Mama and I went shopping downtown. We stopped at the snack bar just like we always. I tugged on Mama's sleeve. Look over at the lunch counter. We know those boys. They were sat 4 brothers, friends from A&T College. Do they know they're in the wrong place? I whispered. Some rules have to be broken, said Mama whispered back. I heard one of them order a coffee and a donut, please. I'm sorry, we can't serve your kind, said the blonde-haired waitress, wringing her hands. The boys didn't budge. Do y'all understand English? A kitchen worker asked. Go on over to the snack bar, she hissed. Stop making trouble here. The manager tapped his foot and jutted his chin. They can sit there for all I care, he said, storming out of the store.
So you all know how that story ends, but for our 5 minutes, we hope that you'll read the rest of the book. Thank you so much.
Hey, how y'all doing this afternoon? Good. I don't think I'll be needing this. My name is Eternal VMC, and I'm just glad to share this wonderful space with y'all wonderful people. I am a hip-hop artist, president, and one of the co-founders of Cypher University, and we're a statewide organization that teaches community outreach, free expression, and through the improvisational arts. We have 7 ciphers throughout North Carolina. And if you want more information about that, you can search us at Cypher University, spelled just like my shirt, .com. I chose the title Monument in Black, and briefly the reason why I chose it is because I wanted to speak and big up the unsung heroes. And one of those unsung heroes who I love dearly is my mother, who wrote this poem. Put my black father on the penny. Let him smile at me on the silver dime. Put my mother on the dollar, for they suffered for more than 3 eternities of time, and all money can't repay. Make a monument of my grandfather. Let him stand in Washington, for he suffered more than 3 light years, standing idle in the dark. Heroes of war that weren't begun. Name a holiday for my brother. On a sunny day, peaceful and warm. For he's fighting for freedom he won't be granted. All my black brothers in Vietnam rest in idle and unkept graves. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Easter Thomas, and today I'll be reciting a poem by Dr. Maya Angelou, Still I Rise. Still I rise. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like moons and like suns, with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high, still I'll rise. Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head, lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries. Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard, 'cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words. You may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I'll rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meetings of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak that's wondrously clear, I rise, bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise.
Hello, everyone. My name is Teen Amber Campbell. I am a member of Top Teens of America. I'm the president of Wendell Chapter, and I am the national second vice president. And today I'll be reading to you Crooked Smile by J. Cole, but first I'm going to read his biography. Jermaine Lamar Cole, J. Cole, born January 28, 1985, is an American rapper, singer, songwriter, producer, and record executive. Born on a military base in Germany and raised in Fayetteville, North Carolina, J. Cole initially gained recognition as a rapper following the release of his debut mixtape, The Come Up, in early 2007. Intent on further pursuing a solo career as a rapper, he went on to release 2 additional mixtapes, The Warm Up, Friday Night Lights, after signing to Jay-Z's Rock Nation imprint in 2008. Self-taught on piano, Cole also acts as a producer alongside his rap career, producing singles for artists such as Kendrick Lamar and Janet Jackson, as well as handling the majority of the production of his projects. He has also developed other ventures, including Dreamville Records, as well as a nonprofit organization called the Dreamville Foundation. In January 2015, Cole decided to house single mothers rent-free at his childhood home in Fayetteville, North Carolina. He graduated magna cum laude from St. John University in 2007 with a 3.8 GPA. You're the one that was trying to keep me way down. But like the sun, you know, I found my way back round. They tell me I should fix my grill 'cause I got money now. I ain't gonna sit around in front like I ain't thought about it. A perfect smile is more appealing, but it's funny how my crooked look at how far I done got without it. I keep my twisted grill just to show them kids it's real. We ain't picture perfect, but we work the picture still. Love yourself, girl, or nobody will. Oh, you a woman? I don't know how you deal. With all the pressure to look impressive and go out in heels, I feel for you. You wake up, put on makeup, stare in the mirror, but it's clear that you can't face what's wrong. No need to fix what God already put his paintbrush on. What it's like to have a crooked smile. To all the women with flaws, I know it's hard, my darling. You keep falling victim because you're insecure, and when I tell you that you're beautiful, you can't be sure. But it's got you asking. So all you see is what you lacking, not what you packing. Take it from a man that loves what you got, and baby girl, you're a star. Don't let them tell you what you're not. Now, is it real? 'Cause what's real is something that the eyes can't see, the hands can't touch, that them broads can't be. And that's you. Never let them see you frown. And if you need a friend to pick you up, I'll be around. We can ride with the music down, the windows loud, but I can tell you ain't laughed in a while. But I want to see your crooked smile. Thank you.
Good evening, brothers and sisters. How y'all doing this afternoon? My name is Nick Corman. I'm currently a graduate student at the University of North Carolina at Pembroke. It's such a coincidence that she did some J. Cole because I'm about to read a compilation of Jermaine Cole lyrics. Because I think that a lot of people get too caught up in J. Cole being like this big, Grammy Award winning now musician. But a lot of people lack to see the poetry that is in his music. So I decided to, get a little nice compilation of, some of his, best works from over the years. So I hope you all enjoy this as well. Let these words be the colors I'm just painting my heart. Because it ain't like life come often. The only thing worse than death is a regret-filled coffin. So always try before you die, but always wonder what if. I thank the Lord for this wonderful gift because God is real and he's using me for a bigger purpose. So forget this world that will have you thinking that a brother is worthless. They say anything's possible and you got to dream like you've never seen obstacles. So keep grinding because your life can change in 1 year because even when it's dark out, the sun is shining somewhere. But I believe in God like the sun up in the sky. Science can tell us how, but can't tell us why. I seen a baby cry, then seconds later she laughs. The beauty of life, the pain never lasts. The rain always pass, the sun don't always shine. When it's gone, I'm lonely, but when it's there, I'm fine. I'm trying to sidestep the devil, but he's heartless, yeah. But just know I'm a rebel, and yeah, it's almost here. I'm talking about the revolution. I am Paul Revere. Thank you.
Hello again, everyone. So, in the spirit of some of the readers that we've just heard, I do want to call into the room the names of some of our ancestors. I think this is a really powerful opportunity to sort of reflect on the youth and the energy that we've had in this space. That would not be possible, right, without some of our ancestors. And so, in the spirit of our ancestors and in the spirit that I opened with around dance and movement and music, I am going to read a couple of additional biographies. The first one is of Baba Chuck Davis. Dr. Chuck Davis, known in the dance world with great love, is Baba Chuck, founded and served as the artistic director of the African American Dance Ensemble based in Durham, North Carolina, and the Chuck Davis Dancer Company of New York. He was an extraordinary dancer, choreographer, community builder, and artistic visionary who demonstrated a lifelong passion and commitment to excellence in dance, teaching, and sharing of African heritage, as well as the nurturing of the best of the human spirit in all of us. He was the founder and artistic director of Dance Africa, which is presented today in Brooklyn, New York, Washington, D.C., Chicago, Illinois, and Dallas, Texas, Denver, Colorado, Columbus, Ohio, and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He was the adjunct professor for the North Carolina Central University with the theater department, as well as Duke University. He served at Duke as a guest teacher, choreographer, and performed for other dance festivals and events throughout the United States and internationally. Dr. Davis was known as one of the world's foremost and accomplished choreographers and teachers in the traditional techniques of African dance styles. He traveled, taught, and choreographed on 5 continents. He led the dance community across the country and internationally. He was beloved and mourned by his family and equally by prestigious dancers and dance organizations when he passed away in 2017. He is an inspiration to all of us, including school children learning their first dance steps. And he danced with energy and enthusiasm at all levels of dance throughout the world and community, sharing his love of dance and people with an open heart. His slogan was peace, love, and respect for everybody. So I'm just going to ask that we call that slogan into this space. I'll say it one more time and then ask you to repeat it. I saw somebody dancing out there, right? Yeah. So one more time. Peace, love, and respect for everybody. Now your turn. Peace, love, and respect for everybody. Thank you. So this is a biography of one more dancer for you. Born one of 6 siblings in Raleigh, North Carolina, Mel Tomlinson became interested in dance after studying high school gymnastics. When he was 17, he began formal dance study at the North Carolina School of the Arts. Tomlinson received his Bachelor in Fine Arts degree in only 2 years, while he also toured as a principal dancer in Agnes DeMille's Heritage Dance Theater and switched from modern dance concentration to ballet. In 1974, he moved to New York to join the Dance Theater of Harlem, where his powerful build, crystalline articulation of line, and supple flexibility propelled him to soloist, most notably as the snake in Arthur Mitchell's Manifestations, which was performed in 1975. In 1976, he took a leave of absence to perform with the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, where he took over the male role in Ailey's Pas de Deux with Judith Jamison and premiered the revival of Lullaby, The Time Before the After Time, also known as the After the Time Before. Discouraged by the heavy touring responsibilities of the Ailey Company, Tomlinson returned to the Dance Theater of Harlem in 1978 to perform principal roles in Swan Lake as well as others. In 1981, he joined the New York City Ballet as its only African American member. He was quickly promoted to the rank of soloist, and his performance in George Balanchine's Agon was called dynamic and electric by the New York Times. Tomlinson left that company in 1987 to join the faculty at North Carolina School of the Arts and was enticed back to performing by NC Dance Theater artistic director Salvatore Aiello. In 1991, he left the NC Dance Theater and joined the Boston Ballet as a dancer and master teacher in the City Dance program, bringing classical dance to public school children in the Boston area. Tomlinson recently passed away in 2019, so just a year ago. I'm now going to invite Khadijah McNair to the stage to share a reading before we have a word from Pure Life Theater. So if Khadijah, you'll join us. I might have to run out and grab her, y'all. Okay. Give me just a moment.
So my name is Khadijah McNair. I'm reading a portion of Recollections of My Slavery Days by William Henry Singleton. It says, I cannot remember when the church incident with relation to the presiding elder occurred, but it could not have been so very long before the beginning of the war. We slaves used to go to the same church our master and the other plantation owners attended. Of course, we used to sit back by the door by ourselves while they sat up front. The church was about 5 miles away from our plantation. We slaves used to walk while our masters rode. This Sunday, for some reason, they left me at home. But after they were gone, I happened to think of a donkey I often rode, and the thought occurred to me that I might ride him to church. So I got on his back and started off. He carried me to church in good style, but when we reached there, instead of waiting for me to get off, he threw me off. I had no rope to tie him, so I left him outside and went in the church. The result was that he got in a fight with another donkey, and while the church service was in progress and created such a disturbance that I was later given a severe whipping for it. But another thing happened during that service which caused a greater commotion than my donkey. Mr. Ayers, the presiding elder, called upon a colored man named Ennis Delamar to pray. Ennis was a slave who had recently been purchased by my master and who had quite a local reputation as a religious man. The fact that Mr. Ayers should call upon a slave to pray caused great offense to the plantation owners, and after the service was over, and while the masters and their families were arranging themselves on the ground to eat their dinner, my master called Ennis to him and asked him what he meant by asking God to send the time when Ethiopia should stretch forth her arm like any army with banners, and said he would teach him better than to use words such as that. Of course, Ennis could not make any reply to this. He had simply been repeating what he heard some white men say, because he himself could neither read nor write. However, they gave him a severe whipping right then and there. This seemed to disturb Mr. Ayers very much. He withdrew from the company and went over to where the slaves were preparing their dinner and told them that he did not see why a Christian man could not be allowed to use his gift of prayer, even if he was black. In some way, this remark got back to the white people. So when the afternoon meeting was called, my master told Mr. Ayers that his service was no longer wanted and that he needed not visit the church anymore. From that time on, my master had charge of the meetings as local preacher, and we never saw Mr. Ayers again. This incident, as I say, must have happened a short time before the beginning of the war, because shortly afterwards, Samuel Hymans, a young man from our community who was attending West Point, came home from vacation. But when the vacation was over, he did not return to West Point. Instead, he commenced to organize a company of soldiers. I was very anxious to go with him as his servant, and my master, at his request, let me do so. The reason why I was so anxious to go with Hymans was because I wanted to learn how to drill. I did learn to drill. After Fort Sumter was fired upon, Hymans' company went to form with other companies at New Bern, the 1st North Carolina Cavalry. This regiment was stationed at New Bern until the 14th of March, 1862, when Burnside and Foster captured New Bern and drove our regiment to Kinston. At Kinston, I ran away from the regiment and made my way to Burnside's headquarters at New Bern. I secured employment as the servant of Colonel Liggett of the 10th Connecticut Regiment.
I'm Charles Graves II. I work at Department of Transportation. I'm just trying to, and I chose this piece because it spoke to me when I was a little boy. It's a series of poems from various artists. And so the first one is By Myself. When I'm by myself and I close my eyes, I'm a twin. I'm a dimple in the chin. I'm a room full of toys. I'm a squeaky noise. I'm a gospel song. I'm a gong. I'm a leaf turning red. I'm a loaf of brown bread. I'm whatever I want to be and anything I care to be. And when I open my eyes, I care to be, and what I care to be is me. That inspired me. I was told to read 2 more. Dreams. Hold fast to dreams, for if dreams die, life is a broken winged bird that cannot fly. Hold fast to dreams, for when dreams go, life is the barren field, frozen with snow. That was all.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Marquise Martin. I'm an intern here at Pure Life Theater, and I'm a senior in high school. I go to Southeast Raleigh Magnet High School, and I was asked to promote the camps for the summer camps. So this summer we'll be doing Aladdin Kids, and that's for rising 2nd through 5th graders. And then we have Lion King, who that's for rising 5th graders to 8th graders. And she asked me to keep talking about more stuff. So here at Pure Life Theater, we do a variety of shows throughout. We do in the winter, around Christmas time, we do Motown Christmas. We also have, in June coming up, we have Pearly. And yeah, so for the people who just came in, I'm gonna repeat the camp information. So for the camps, right, we have Aladdin Kids. It's for rising 2nd through rising 5th graders. That's all wrong. Rising 2nd graders to 5th graders, and then rising 5th graders to 8th graders for Lion King Jr. And yeah, that's all I have for y'all. And now I'm supposed to introduce Brandy. And yes, all right, y'all have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Okay, there's a mic here, but I'm reading from a storybook, so I'm gonna leave it down. Can everybody hear me though?
Yes.
If you can't hear me, I will recruit a small child to hold this book for me. Okay. So somebody read, my name is Brandy Raggianti. I'm an MLIS graduate student at the University of North Carolina, Greensboro. I'm also a public historian. And I'm going to read the ending of Freedom on the Menu by Carol Boston Weatherford with paintings by Jerome La Garrigue. I believe that somebody read the beginning of this book earlier. And I chose this book partially because I live in Greensboro, and so I wanted to honor that in some way. But I also just really love this artist's work. And if you want to look at the paintings afterward, you're welcome to come swipe the book from me for a little bit. Then one day, Mama and I went shopping downtown. We stopped at the snack bar just like always. I tugged at Mama's sleeve. Look over at the lunch counter. We know those boys. There sat 4 of Brother's friends from A&T College. Do they know they're in the wrong place? I whispered. Some rules have to be broken, Mama whispered back. I heard one of them order, coffee and a donut, please. I'm sorry, we can't serve your kind, said the blonde-haired waitress, wringing her hands. The boy didn't budge. Don't y'all understand English? A kitchen worker asked. Go on over to the snack bar, she hissed. Stop making trouble here. The manager tapped his foot and jutted out his chin. "They can sit there forever for all I care," he said, storming out of the store. An old white lady came up to the boys. "I'm so proud of you," she said, clear as a bell so everyone could hear. "I wish someone had done this sooner." The waitress kept wiping and re-wiping the counter and refilling salt and pepper shakers, sugar pours, and napkin holders. Suddenly, the manager came back with a tall policeman. "Let's go, Connie," said Mama. "The manager shooed us right out of the store and then put a closed sign in the window." I couldn't wait to tell Brother. "Why'd your friends do that?" I asked. "If we can spend money at a store," said Brother, "it's only fair that we should be able to eat at the store's lunch counter." "I guess so," I said. "Think it'll work?" "Sometimes it's important just to try," said Daddy, rubbing his chin. The next day, Daddy showed me the newspaper. The headline said, "Negro students stand up by sitting down." "They sat 4 hours," said Daddy, peering over the newspaper. "I'd be too hungry to wait that long," I said. "Connie, they didn't really want food," said Daddy. "They wanted to be allowed to get it, same as if they were white, to be treated fairly." By Friday, we heard on the news how hundreds more had joined in the sit-ins. "The protests are growing," I told Daddy. "I'm joining the sit-ins," Brother said, bursting into the room. "And I'm going to picket downtown," said Sister, "tomorrow." "I want to go too," I said. "I'm plenty big enough to hold a sign, and I know I can sit." "It's good that you want to help," said Daddy. "But Connie, you're still too young for these things." "I never get to do anything important," I pouted. "You can help us make picket signs," said Sister. "That's very important." The next morning, I handed Sister my little flag for her to carry. "We'll tell you everything when we get home," Brother promised. Turns out, I saw the protests on TV. Hundreds of people walked up and down the sidewalks in front of stores, restaurants, and movie theaters. I saw my own sister carrying a picket sign. And there was the back of Brother's head at the lunch counter, my own brother. "I'm just so proud of them," said Daddy. "Me too," I said. "I just pray there's no trouble," Mama fretted. After a while, I watched the news on TV almost as much as Mommy and Daddy. One night, I saw a report on the sit-ins. "That doesn't look like downtown," I said. "Connie, the sit-ins have spread all over the South," said Daddy. Just then, the phone rang. I answered it. "Daddy, it's Sister. She got arrested at the lunch counter. She's in jail." Sister, who always got A's in school, who hardly ever got in trouble, was what Mama called mule stubborn. Daddy raced to the police station, but Sister wouldn't let him get her out of jail. He told me how the students kept chanting, "Jail, not bail. Jail, not bail." "We can't just leave Sister here with the bad guys," I pleaded. "She's made up her mind," Connie said, Mama, wiping a tear. "She wants to stay with the other students." In a few days, Sister came home. "Promise me you'll stop picketing," I begged. "I can't do that," she said, hugging me tight. Now, instead of shopping downtown, we had to order from the Sears catalog. Mama and I leafed through the big, thick catalog together. She even let me help pick things out, but we both knew it wasn't the same. "How long before the sit-ins are over, Mama?" I asked. "Till folks get what they want," said Mama. That summer, Mama, Daddy, and I finally went downtown. When we passed Woolworth's, I heard someone shout, "They're serving them!" Daddy stopped so fast that the brakes screeched, and Mama and I jolted forward. We parked and ran to the lunch counter. There sat the women who worked in the restaurant kitchen. They were all dressed up fancy and eating egg salad. I can't even stand the smell of egg salad, but I stood and watched them eat every bite. "Looks pretty good," I said. Daddy and I shared big grins. The next day, Brother, Sister, and I made a special trip downtown. Brother wore a suit and tie, and we girls wore hats and white gloves. At the lunch counter, I climbed up on a stool next to them. "We'll have 3 hot dogs, 3 French fries, 2 coffees, 1 Coke, and 1 banana split, please," I told that blonde-haired waitress. Sister and brother sipped coffee, and I twisted on my stool while we waited for our meals. Our food soon arrived. As I ate, the waitress plopped an extra cherry on a mound of whipped cream. She still looked nervous, but she smiled at me. It was the best banana split I ever had. Thank you.
Strumming my pain with his fingers, singing my life with his words, killing me softly with his song, killing me softly with his song, telling my whole life with his words, killing me softly with his song. Roberta Flack. Oh, I didn't say it for the clap. In the late 1950s, the future star of soul music, Roberta Flack became the first lead vocalist for the Monitors while living and teaching in Farmville near Greenville. A native of Western North Carolina, she graduated from Howard University with a degree in music education at the age of 19 and accepted a position teaching music and English in Farmville. In spite of her brief stay, she is well remembered by her former students, including the gospel quartet singer Joe Charles Hopkins. Hi, my name is Kima Lassiter, and I serve as the Constituent Affairs Liaison for the North Carolina African American Heritage Commission. I am reading from the African American Music Trails of Eastern North Carolina by Sarah Bryan and Beverly Patterson with Michelle Lanier and Titus Brooks Higgins. While I was in the 8th grade, Roberta Flack came to our school, and she taught us music and English. She was a phenomenal lady. I really had high admiration for her, and still do even today. I haven't seen her since, but I love her music. I truly do. Hold on 1 second. Among the most far-reaching musical legacies here are those of musicians who have taught in the Wilson County schools. During a long career in these schools, which included experience as a music teacher, principal, and assistant superintendent, Bill Myers also worked as a professional R&B jazz musician. Looking back, Myers credits his former high school and band director in Greenville as a pivotal influence. And at some point around his 8th grade year, he says, so I'm reading about Roberta Flack and Bill Myers, sorry. This white band director left and a new band director was hired. His name was Bob Lewis. Bob Lewis went to school at Virginia State in Petersburg, Virginia. I never met a man like Bob Lewis. He was a sharp dresser, a very debonair guy. I just admired everything this guy did. His shoes were shine every day, and he played the saxophone. I wanted to be just like Bob Lewis. He was my idol. I worshiped this man. But I don't want to play the drums anymore. I want to play what Bob Lewis plays, you see? But now I have a saxophone at his house too. And Bob Lewis played the saxophone too. So I said, please show me how to play this horn. He started to teach me, and he moved me from the drums to the saxophone. So I watched everything he was doing. I watched his fingers. I watched his mouth. Everything he did. I just had to copy everything he did. So I had never even seen Virginia State, but I am now determined, now more than ever, that I want to go to Virginia State. I don't care what happens. I have to go to Virginia State. My father married a lady who was a school teacher in Greenville, and they determined to help send me to Virginia State. When I got there, I didn't have a horn because the horn I played didn't belong to me. So I showed up to be a music major without an instrument. You come here to be a music major without an instrument? You don't even have a horn. And I said, no, sir, I don't. So they gave me a job cleaning the football place and gave me a horn in the marching band, a baritone saxophone. So I started playing for bands over at Fort Lee. I met people like Joe Kennedy, Ahmad Jamal, who were famous musicians. By this time, we were in the 50s, and the way you play is like Charlie Parker or Donald Byrd. And if you don't play like this, you are lame. You are a square. Get out of my face. I made that adjustment and I began to grow. I graduated in 1955 from Virginia State, went to the military as a second lieutenant in Korea, and I was isolated from music because I was with the troops, only about 5 miles from the 38th parallel. But I took my horn. So people used to use me to play for their birthday parties. And then the chaplain there found out that I could play the piano and went from camp to camp for the church services. Also, while I was there, I got a chance to play in some of the backup bands because movie stars would come and they would use people who could play and who could read music. I hadn't been home in 2 years because I'd been in Korea. I came back and I said, well, music is what I want to do. I want to play. I've got to do this. My father heard that there was a job opening in Elm City. All right, I'll go to the job interview. I didn't even have a car. I borrowed a friend's car to get there. And sure enough, they hired me on the spot. And I said, I'll do this 1 year to satisfy my parents. But then I'm out of here. I want to play. I want to be a performing musician. Again, I have read from the American Music Trails of the Eastern North Carolina, and I read about Roberta Flack as well as Bill Myers. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Natalie Rodriguez, and I work for the state capitol. And this is Juliana Rodriguez Hart. She's one of our youth readers today. And she goes to Creekside Elementary School, and she's in first grade. And you will be reading what today?
Feeling Good by Nina Simone.
Who's from North Carolina.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me, yay. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. Oh, and I'm feeling good today. Fish in the sea, you know how I feel. Rivers running free, you know how I feel. Blooming on blossoms on the tree, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me, and I'm feeling good. Dragonflies out in the sun, you know what I mean. Don't you know? Butterflies all having fun, you know what I mean. Sleep in peace when day is done, that's what I mean. And this old world is a new world, and a bold world is me. Stars on my stars when you shine, you know how I feel. Scent of the pine, you know what I mean, what I feel. Oh, freedom is mine, and I am, and I'm feeling good new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me, and I'm feeling good. And I'm feeling free, right? I'm feeling good.
Thank you. Now we'll have our next reader come up.
Good afternoon. My name is Shauna Williams, and I'm here from Warren County, North Carolina. I am president of the board of the Warren County Community Center. Picture the year is 1933. If you are Black and you have any business, banking, even to go to a restaurant in Warrenton, there's no place to go to the bathroom. If you bought your food at a restaurant, from the back of the restaurant, you couldn't stand on the street to eat it. And so a very courageous woman named Winnie B. Williams, at 80 years old, oldest living school teacher in Warren County, came up with the idea that we needed a restroom with lavatory facilities. And the Warren County Community Center came out of her vision. And as president of the board, we have been having fundraisers and Black history programs for the last 7 years. The community center was born in 1934, so it's an 86-year-old building. We have a 2-story. It was built as a state-of-the-art building back in the mid-30s. But one year I just sat down and wrote a poem about the community center. So that's the first thing I'm going to read today. And it's simply community center history. History, his story, her story, your story, my story. It's all here. School teacher Winnie B. Williams had an idea. Her idea turned into this place we call the Warren County Community Center. It's all here. History, his story, her story, your story, my story. Brick by brick, step by step, coin by coin, dollar by dollar, book by book, neighborhood by neighborhood, they came together to make this place. It became a meeting place, a safe place, a reading place, a place to meet and greet or just come to eat. Because we had to get off the street. A place to sit, a place to shower, a place to dance, a place to use the restroom, a gathering place, a place that built memories. And year by year, it became so much more. From 4-H to scouts to church meetings and socials, the ladies' lounge to the library, upstairs and downstairs, coloring, reading, praying, and singing. It all happened here. Second glances, high school dances, stolen kisses, hand-holding. Oh, if these walls could talk. History, his story, her story, your story, my story. Let us not forget the people in our past who paved the way for us to be here today as we look to tomorrow and pray for an even brighter day. History, his story, her story, your story, my story, our history. And my second reading is an excerpt from a book that I'm writing. I won't even tell you how long I've been writing it, following the death of my husband, who was 37 years old. In the days following the sudden death of my young husband, I started writing. At first, I kept a diary pouring out my feelings. Some days I wrote until I was blinded by my tears, and I would lie down on my bed sobbing until I went off to sleep. While I was fortunate to be surrounded by family, friends, and other loved ones, I was never more alone in my life. I had suffered a major loss, and I was at a loss. 2 girlfriends moved in with me and my 2 children, aged 7 and 9 at the time. For days, we all slept together in the living room on the floor. I couldn't sleep in my own bed, not the bed that I had shared with my husband of 11 years, and my children didn't want to sleep in their rooms. My father-in-law had moved in and taken over my daughter's room, so my children, friends, and I slept on the living room floor. We needed the togetherness. We needed each other. We needed to share this loss. Every night before we went to sleep, my friends told me to wake them up if I couldn't sleep. Many a night I had to do just that. I would wake up suddenly and be unable to get back to sleep. My best friend, my partner, my soulmate was gone. We kissed goodbye one morning, and he did not make it home alive that night. He was dead, 37 years old, and he was lying in a morgue in a hospital. I was lying on a floor with my children and girlfriends, remembering my husband. I would wake up and cry or just lay there, numb. No matter what I tried, I could not go back to sleep. And so I would wake up my friends and we would talk well into the night until I finally closed my eyes and went back to sleep. I was in shock, but I didn't even know it. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Y'all so warm. My name is Darryl Coulter. I am an artist. I'm a sculptor. I'm a muralist. I am also painting. I am right out there with the little easel and the brushes and all that stuff. I am the illustrator for a children's book called My NC from A to Z. It was written by Michelle Lanier, and I had the honor and blessing of illustrating that children's book. The pieces that you see outside on my table are all images from the book, and the whole objective of the book was to provide a visual history of North Carolina history pertaining to Black North Carolinians, because we have such a beautiful legacy in this state. It is Michelle's passion to tell stories. She has original training as a folklorist, and to be the illustrator for the children's book that she has, considered for years was really, really a great process. So I'm gonna take you guys through it really quickly. I'm gonna stop a little bit. I've got a couple minutes here, but in the case of that, I will show you guys the pictures. So this is My NC from A to Z by Michelle Lanier with illustrations by Darryl Coulter. And the concept of the children's book is, like an alphabet book where it introduces children to the concept of the letter form. So it really wasn't supposed to be a super complex thing. The hope is that you all will take the initiative to go online, look at the resources that have been compiled, because there's a whole bunch of information relating to these topics. But it follows the alphabet book format of A is for, B is for. Okay, so A is for Anna Julia Cooper and Abraham Galloway. And B is for Black Wall Street. C is for Charlotte Hawkins Brown. D is for Dismal Swamp. And Dismal Swamp is one that a lot of people don't know about. The Dismal Swamp, you had a lot of Black people who were escaping the horrors of slavery, of racial injustice, and they ran away and hid and lived in the swamps, which that's quite a fascinating history, but interesting to check out as well. E is for Ella Baker. F is for Freedom Hill. G is for George Henry White. H is for historically Black colleges and universities. I know we have the shop people sitting over there. I is for ice cream. So this was the first painting from the book that I began illustrating. It's about the moment after the protests happened, the moment after all the treacherous acts were endured, and the moment where victory has been won. So these are people at a Black counter. They're Black joy people just being happy. A couple other things in there. J is for Michael Jordan and Harriet Jacobs and John Chavis. And J. Cole's little album covers right there because he's a J too. K is for Sarah Keys. L is for Longleaf Pine. So this one is it's particularly interesting. It embodies the interest and the complication of the book. So Longleaf Pine is quite heavy. These trees were covering the land in North Carolina. The first order of business for North Carolina was clearing these trees. They made enslaved people do that but they also were able to harvest turpentine and pitch and tar from those trees. From those trees, they used the lumber as well as the products to waterproof boats that they used to go back and capture more people and bring them across the Atlantic. So it was really quite a quite a complicated process, but and complicated, I mean emotionally, is just bad stuff. But trying to take a children's book and address such heavy topics, I think this was the most effective way that we were able to do that. It's not that you want to terrify children, but you want it to be that at the point that it's appropriate, they have something that they can say, okay, this too happened, because everything isn't all bright. M is for medicine, N is for Nina Simone. And I'll say this because I'm proud of it. Out there's a G-clay print of a painting of Nina Simone. It was commissioned by the National Trust for Historic Preservation to raise funds to restore Nina Simone's childhood home. And the Historic Sites people, as well as the African American Heritage Commission, had something to do with that. So that's really, really cool. O is for Outer Banks. P is for Polly Murray. Q is for Quiet and Quilts and Questions. R is for Rosenwald Schools. And y'all have seen her a lot today. This is the wonderful, phenomenal Angela Thorpe right here. Okay. S is for songs. I love this page, if y'all can't tell. It's really, really, really cool. Yeah, I love this page. T is for Thomas Day. U is for United States Colored Troops. On the table, I have a sticker that has the United States Colored Troops, as well as a famous line from a famous song that goes something along the lines of, "I ain't never scared." And it's a reference to their bravery, which is really, really quite a thing. V is for Visionary Artists. W is for Writers. X is for X-ray. Y is for you. Thank all of you for being here today. And Z is for Zoom into the future. This is the mothership and George Clinton. I want to say really quickly, I think I'm probably out of time. It was such a great experience to work on this project. It was about a 2-year thing. As an artist, this is my first published book. It's the first board book. This is something that I thought would take years to have happen. So this book was created with a lot of love, with a lot of people who are wonderful. The commission is women. I say it's all Black women plus Sheila, and I keep saying that, but it's true. They were kind and they were supportive and they were great. So 2 years later, as of two Tuesdays ago, this finally launched and is the conclusion of so many people's wonderful efforts, and there's so much more to do. So the book is available online. It is very close to selling out, so when it sells out, it'll be back again. But hopefully you guys just happen to cross this in life or something, or it ends up being something that is dear to y'all. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. How are you? My name is Victoria Miller, and I am 1/4 of the owners of a Liberation Station bookstore, the other parts belonging to my husband, Dwayne, and our 2 sons, Langston and Emerson. How we kind of got started, we're 8 months in, but we got started from declining $2 million during a time of lack. And I know that sounds really interesting, but my mother and father moved to Philadelphia to help my father, who had succumbed to a drug addiction, get out of the city, get out of Memphis, Tennessee, and they moved to Philadelphia. And while there, they rented out a townhouse. And at the bottom of the townhouse were all of these artifacts from previous owners. And my father went down there about 34 years ago, rummaging through to try to find something to pawn. And he came across a Bible written in the 1400s, trimmed in gold. And inside of that Bible were these little handwritten papers that were from the 1800s. And my mom, pregnant with my sister at the time, tried to bargain with him and said, hey, give me the Bible. It's expensive. It'll be great for us. But he didn't fully understand the concept of legacy at that time. And so she took those papers that looked expensive, written in the 1800s, and gave him the Bible. 2 years ago, my father passed away. And my mother, who kept those same papers in those Ziploc bags, decided to release the artifacts of his existence a little bit at a time. And she said, Victoria, Dwayne, y'all are inquisitive, y'all are artists, y'all are poets. Take the papers, I don't want to throw them away. You might put them on the wall and display them as art. But we didn't. We are millennials who are nosy. So we decided to do research instead. And later to find out that these papers were written by Nathaniel Knight, who was a bookstore owner like myself, 200 years ago, white. And in the day, he enforced fines on those who decided to employ Black life. But at night, he would also provide sheet music and literature to the AME Church. The other letters are written by Frederick Douglass. And of course, you can imagine we were excited and floored and all of that. My husband transitioning through the military. We were on food stamps last year, $250 to our name. And I guess you can imagine when we were offered $2 million, what the conversation between a husband and wife might have been like. On my side, a lot of yelling and screaming. On my husband's side, a lot of listening and trying to be practical. But I didn't understand no when my husband said we shouldn't take it. So instead, he went on our chalkboard wall and he wrote out an equation. Because he speaks in math, I speak in poetry. And he created an equation that was simple enough to understand. He said if we take $2 million, they're going to take out taxes, might be left with $800,000, and that's a $100,000 salary for 8 years. And at the time, I was 33 last year, and he was 32. We have 2 little ones and no income. And I relied on his faith for something greater. And so we took that last $250 and we bought our first round of books for children that look like our children. And we thought about the fact that with our income being so low, that we were going to make it a mobile bookstore, that we were going to be a brick that had a solid foundation without the mortar, that we were going to live this life that we have become accustomed to being a military family, having to get orders and pack up and leave and create home anywhere. And we were going to take that same concept and we were going to apply it to our journey. And so we started Liberation Station with $250 in our faith. And since then, our partners have now become Amtrak, Duke Gardens, the Durham Hotel, Nolia, and we've been contacted by Starbucks and Walgreens and all these wonderful things. But I will say that the mission remains the same, to tap into the deep reservoir of the children's publishing industry and to unearth those narratives that aren't often highlighted, to glorify them, and to also teach other children that might not necessarily look like our Langston and our Emerson how to live a life of compassion to someone's narrative that they might not fully understand. And so I encourage you all to come by our booth and get to know a little bit about us. We also have our Liberation Station Blacklit libraries, which are safe reading spaces for children of color. So we even thought about what we're offering not always being affordable for children. So we created these spaces in at Duke Gardens, where a child can go on the campus and unknowingly remove the anxiety about applying to college and read stories about themselves. They can literally go to the front of a hotel and pick up a book of a narrative that looks like them, and they can go inside and just sit and enjoy and not be required to purchase anything, but that could become their new library. And they can begin to dream outside of the conventional spaces that they want children to learn in. We also have on display our ancestor collection. We thought, hey, we're living in a time where people are not really appreciating literature. And so we wanted to go into these estate sales, and we wanted to go to these garage sales, and we intentionally sourced first edition signed copies of our ancestors that have made immeasurable contributions in literature. So outside, you will see signed copies of Langston Hughes, first editions. You will see James Baldwin, you will see Toni Morrison, you will see Octavia Butler. But we wanted to make it tangible, because when you can touch something, when you can feel something, you know how to take care of it. And we want to be able to teach our children how to take care of it, because that's how they're going to learn to carry out the torch that we're working hard to establish. So thank you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. You want to tell them a little bit about who you are?
My name is Zoe and I'm selling bookmarks. My name is Zoe and I'm selling bookmarks.
Okay. Can you tell them a little bit about your business? What the name of your bookmark or your business is?
It's called Zoe's Bookmarks and Reading Accessories.
Okay. And why don't we talk about how you got started with your business?
I started the business by reading.
Yeah. So part of what birthed this idea of Zoe's Bookmarks and Reading Accessories is that she really, really enjoys reading, and she's got a number of books. The challenge with her is that she might find a book that piques her interest and then may find something else. And before she finishes the first one, she'll lose her space. And so we were able to, she came up with the idea to put these little markers in her books so that she wouldn't lose her space. And they're kind of fun characters. And from that, she and I worked together to design them so that they're not just for children's books, they're for adults. We have bookmarks that feature musicians and symbols that resonate with adults, like cookbooks. We have some cooking utensils, and there are, for those who enjoy shoe shopping, we have high heels. We're starting to expand more to include some of the children's book characters and things like that. So there are a variety of items that she will that cater to readers of all ages. Is there anything else you want to say? Do you want to say why you selected this? No. All right. Well, thank you. We appreciate your time, and when you get a chance, stop by Zoe's table.
Hi everyone, my name is Maria Green. I am a senior at Shaw University. The title of the selection I will be reading today is called Hey Black Child by Yusini Eugene Perkins. And the reason why I selected this piece is because when I was a kid, I didn't really have books that I could look to and find like a sense of pride in, or see people that looked like me. And ironically, I have a 6-year-old nephew who has autism and a speech delayment. And once we went into a store, I think it was Barnes and Noble or maybe another bookstore, but he saw this book. And once I said, "Hey, black child," he just stopped. My nephew does not sit still. So it's like, for him to like pause and just take it in, it made me feel like, for one, something resonated to him at 6. Like he still haven't put together a full sentence yet. So for him to sit still, it just made me feel like it spoke to his soul. And I fell in love with it from that moment. So I hope you guys can do the same. And so I want to show you guys some visuals. I have public speaking fear, so I'm getting over it with you guys. Just please bear with me. All right, so, hey, black child, do you know who you are, who you really are? Do you know who you can be, what you want to be, if you try to be, what you can be? Hey, black child, do you know where you're going, where you are really going? Do you know you can learn what you want to learn, if you try to learn what you can learn? Hey, black child, do you know you are strong? And I mean really strong. Do you know you can do what you want to do, if you try to do what you can do? Hey, black child, be what you can be. Learn what you must learn, and do what you can do. And tomorrow, your nation will be what you want it to be. Do you know who you are, who you really are? This beautiful poem celebrates black children and seeks to inspire all young ones to dream big and achieve their goals. Dear Black Child. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. You guys can all hear me, right? Because I'm not going to use a microphone. I hope you all are having a wonderful day. My name is Boral Bigangacha. I'm a senior at Shaw University, and my selection today is Sing a Song, Lift Every Voice and Sing by Kelly Starling Lyons. And my reason for selecting this selection is really because it's a song for generations that inspired many people and always gave them empowerment. And it's a little short story, so I'm gonna try to read through it as quick as I possibly can to get to the end so that you guys could hear the whole entire story. So it goes like so. Before you were born, a girl learned the song. Her principal, James Weldon Johnson, and his brother, John Rosamond Johnson, had written the hymn for a celebration of President Abraham Lincoln's birthday. The girl wanted to make them proud. She hummed the song on her way home from school. She practiced it as she did her chores. On the big day, February 12, 1900, she was part of a choir 500 strong. Back straight, head high, heart and mouth open, she sang. Lift every voice and sing. Till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. And she kept on singing as she grew up. She taught it to her students, and when she became a teacher, she crooned it to her husband as they journeyed from Jacksonville, Florida, to a new life in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She sang it when she rocked the baby boy to sleep. It was a part of her she wanted to pass on. And you know what? The little boy learned that song. He listened to her hum it as she dreamed of being able to teach again in her new home. He heard his daddy sing it when the days at the steel mill wore him down. Then one day he stood in the choir loft and gazed at the glowing faces, back straight, head high, heart and mouth open, he sang, let all rejoicing rise, high as the listening skies. Let it resound as loud as the rolling sea. And he kept on singing. He sang it when he came back home from World War II. He faced discrimination. He sang it when he joined the NAACP. He sang it with his wife and to his baby daughter as he rocked her to sleep. It was a part of him he wanted to pass on. And you know what? His little girl learned that song. She sang it every morning at school. Then the day that broke the nation's heart, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was killed. That morning she saw her teacher cry. Sobs replaced singing, then whimpers and silence. Who would lead them now? The song whispered an answer. Back straight, head high, heart and mouth open, she sang. Sing a song full of faith that dark past has taught us. And she kept on singing. She sang in that protest for equal rights. And she sang when she and her friends were jailed. She sang that song in her heart each time she won or lost a case as a lawyer. She sang it to her baby boy as she rocked him to sleep. It was a part of her she wanted to pass on. And you know what? Her little boy learned that song. Every family reunion opened with that anthem. He sang because he had to at first, but then something changed. He saw the awe in his grandparents' faces, saw the pride in his mamas and pops. Back straight, head high, heart and mouth open, he sang. Sing a song full of hope that the present has brought us. And he kept on singing. He sang it at his college graduation, when he opened his first business. He sang it at rallies to stand up against racism. He sang it holding his wife's hand at the back of history program. And when he rocked his daughters to sleep, it was a part of him he wanted to pass on. And you know what? His little girl learned that song. And on another big day, September 24th, 2016, she stood in a crowd of thousands along with her mama and daddy. President Obama, the first lady, and generations of one family rang the freedom bell. A dream born a century ago to honor Black lives and contributions had finally come true. The National Museum of African American History and Culture was finally open. With the Washington Monument piercing the sky, that little girl stared at the bronze building majestic as a crown. As bell around the nation tolled in triumph, she heard a voice rising too. Clear and strong, it was a song she had heard her parents sing. Back straight, head high, heart and mouth open, she sang. Facing the rising of sun of our new day begun, let us march till victory is won. And you know what? That song is a part of you. Sing when you score a victory. Sing when tough times get you down. Sing and think of all the people who sang before you, who carried on and pushed forward, even when everything was against them. Sing and remember, they never stopped believing. Keep singing, keep pushing, keep passing it on. Keep on keeping on. And that'll be all. Thank you.
Good day. My name is Jamelia Pinder. I'm a freshman from Shaw University, and I'll be speaking about Ella Baker and the founding of SNCC. The main reason the main reason why I'm happy that I'm going to be speaking about this, reading about this, is because this April 3rd and 4th, Shaw University is going to be celebrating its 60th anniversary. This is a bit lengthy, so I'll try to read as entertaining as possible. During slavery, most slaves were denied any education and remained illiterate. Those who secretly defied the rules risked being severely punished. In spite of that, Ella's grandfather, Mitchell Ross, taught himself to read and write. In the next generation, his daughter Anna made an even bigger leap up the educational ladder. She was educated, trained as a teacher, and taught school in Littleton before getting married to Blake Baker. By the time of emancipation, the Southern economy was in the ruins due to the Civil War. There was little money to spend on public school systems. Although more funds were gradually appropriated for education, the states intentionally underfunded African American schools, paid the teachers less, and provided fewer supplies than the white schools. A common practice was for states to transfer old, worn-out textbooks from the white schools to the black ones. In rural farming communities, things were even worse. Often, African American children walked several miles to and from the schools they attended, even when a white school was closer. The rundown black schoolhouses had battered furniture and, if lucky, might have a stove that provided heat in the winter. In contrast, white schools got 2 to 3 times as much state money, had better facilities, and had higher teachers' salaries. Youngsters from rural farming families did not have the luxury of attending school year-round. During the planting and harvesting seasons, children dropped out of school to pick crops such as cotton and tobacco. Despite the gross inequities in the separate education systems, African American families valued education and endured the associated hardships. They believed that educated persons would be better positioned to claim the full rights of citizenship as black freedoms were gradually won. The Bakers made sure that children attended the best schools available and even paid for private schooling as they matured. In Littleton, Blake, Ella, and Maggie attended a free 2-room school attached to the South Street Baptist Church. Even before they went to school, Anna had taught them grammar, writing, and speech at home. When they enrolled in school, she kept in close touch with their teachers, knew them and the principals by name, and carefully monitored the children's homework. In 1917, at 14, Ella, considered the smartest of 3 children, was sent away to attend the high school division at Shaw Academy and University in Raleigh, North Carolina. Founded in 1865, the university was originally named Raleigh Institute and started as a theological institution that trained African American males for the ministry. In 1866, the first class of women was admitted. After completing her studies at Shaw Academy, Ella continued in the university division. She was a serious-minded scholar, but her years at the university were not without some tense moments of rebellion. She clashed with those in authority when she felt her rights, or those of the student body in general, had been abridged. Sometimes she was the spokesperson for groups of dissatisfied students, and at other times she spoke for herself. The first protest came about when Ella was a senior in the high school division. She was asked to submit a petition signed by women students requesting that the school relax its dress code, forbidding them to wear silk stockings on campus. As a student, Ella dressed modestly and did not concern herself with the latest in fashion, so she did not feel strongly about having the rule dropped. Nevertheless, she agreed to represent the students. They knew that she was an excellent speaker and skilled debater who would forcefully argue the case while not being intimidated by the administrators. Ella met several times with the Dean of Women, who was shocked by how tenaciously and assertively she argued the student's case. The dean denied the request, but by the time Baker graduated 4 years later, the rule had been removed from the dress code. The next time Baker butted heads with a university official, she took a principled stand against the last white president of the institution. And explaining the incident, Baker put it into context. We raised questions about different kinds of things, and one thing in particular, I think, that irked him was that he would do the kind of thing that many students resented. When Northern whites would come, they'd want you to sing spirituals. I recall them asking me if I'd lead something, but I said, "No, Mr. President." That was quite a bold stance for a student to take against the head of the institution. During her junior year, Baker and a large group of other students refused to take the Bible examination, required of all those enrolled. The students claimed that the exam was being administered unfairly by one professor in particular. When they received a negative response to their letter of protest, the majority of the students, including Ella, backed down and took the exam. Despite these acts of rebellion against authority, overall, Baker blossomed at the university and graduated in 1927 as valedictorian of her class. She left Shaw as a self-confident, well-read young woman eager to make her mark in the world. Next to Ella Baker's extended family, the Black Baptist Church was the most important influence in her life. From a young age, the church imprinted upon her a strong sense of morality, justice, and social obligation. Ella witnessed the Christian charity practiced by her mother and other churchwomen. From their examples, she learned to have empathy for others, whether they lived in her community or were perfect strangers. Baker remembered how her mother nursed the sick and gladly aided total strangers. Anna fed, bathed, and washed the clothes of the less fortunate children in their neighborhood. Often, Ella was by her mother's side as she performed these acts of kindness. At other times, Anna assigned Ella chores of her own to do for needy families. Her mother's example was instilled a like-minded sense of compassion in her daughter. In the summer of 1927, at the age of 24, Baker, the recent college graduate, left home for New Jersey. The birth of SNCC. In the decades of the Civil War, social customs and later Jim Crow laws mandated strict separation of the races. Communities throughout the South maintained separate public facilities. There were separate black schools, separate black libraries, separate YMCA and YWCA branches, separate parks and swimming pools. Blacks were prohibited from drinking at the same water fountains or using the same restrooms as whites. At train and interstate bus stations, there were segregated black waiting rooms with separate entrances. At movie theaters, blacks were restricted to seating in the balcony, nicknamed the Crow's Nest. Even more belittling, some high-end department stores did not allow black customers to try on clothes. Others had separate entrances for blacks and whites. The African American facilities were nearly always inferior and second-rate. This Southern brand of racial separatism angered black college students, especially those from the North and Midwest, who were encountering the rigid colored line for the first time. As early as the 1940s, students staged protests in several cities. In 1943 and 1944, Howard University students sat in at public places in Washington, D.C., hoping to spark protests across the nation. However, University President Mordecai Johnson ended the sit-ins. Black college presidents were often pressured by white donors, civic leaders, and state higher education authorities to halt such protests. Retaliation in the form of reduced or withheld financial support hung over their heads. A few years later, in 1957, 6 young protesters, led by a local minister, sat in at Durham's Royal Ice Cream Parlor. The next year, the NAACP Youth Council in Wichita, Kansas, organized a sit-in at Dockham's Drug Store, which was later recognized as the first successful sit-in of the civil rights movement. In that same year, the Katz Drug Store in Oklahoma City integrated in response to an NAACP Youth Council sit-in. A rising tide of social change also coincided with the student sit-ins in the 1940s and 1950s. Having fought for American democracy on the battlefields of Europe during World War II, Black soldiers returned to the United States with their eyes wide open to the stark differences between the liberties and freedoms they had experienced abroad and the rigidly enforced racial segregation at home. In addition, freedom's door was opened wider when executive orders issued by President Franklin D. Roosevelt in 1941 and President Harry Truman in 1948 banned discriminatory employment practices in the defense industry and segregation in the armed services. Race issues continued to weigh heavily on the minds of Black college students who were still chafing under the heavy yoke of discrimination. Located in a close-knit Black community on the east side of Greensboro, North Carolina Agricultural and Technical College, later known as A&T University, and Bennett College were neighboring institutions, one private, the other public. In 1959, Bennett students talked about protesting at downtown businesses. John Hatchett, the faculty advisor of the campus NAACP chapter, recalled that from September until early November, we met constantly and discussed viable strategies to implement our protest goals. Students at North Carolina A&T held similar discussions. At one point, activists on both campuses held joint meetings to plot strategies for a protest. However, on February 1st, 1960, Ezel A. Blair Jr., later Jabril Kazan, Franklin E. McCain, Joseph A. McNeil, and David L. Richmond, 4 A&T freshmen, decided impulsively to act without consulting their peers. Perhaps the final straw was McNeil's experience at the local Greyhound bus terminal. On his return to campus after the winter holidays, he had been denied counter service. On the fateful late afternoon of the sit-in, the nearly dressed young men left Scott Hall and walked a short distance to downtown. They entered the Woolworth store at the corner of South Elm and Sycamore Streets, now February 1 Place, purchased some school supplies, then sat down at the whites-only lunch counter and politely ordered coffee. They were refused service but peacefully stayed there until the store was closed and then returned to campus. The very act of sitting at the lunch counter violated long-established Woolworth policy and accepted social customs. In an interview, one student explained that we believe since we buy books and papers in the other part of the store, we should get served in this part. The next day, students from other colleges joined the protest. Before long, Black students from A&T, Bennett, and Dudley High School came to occupy the lunch counter stools. Soon, white students from women's colleges and Guilford College, as well as adults, joined them. Protesters returned to the lunch counter day in and day out for several months. The police began arresting the demonstrators until busloads filled the jails to overflowing. By late July, Mayor George H. Roach and Ed Zane, chairman of the newly formed Greensboro Advisory Committee on Community Relations, had persuaded the Woolworth management to negotiate a settlement. The lunch counter was finally open to serve all properly dressed and well-behaved people. In a gesture of respect, the manager, Clarence Harris, invited the store's 4 African-American employees, Charles Best, Maddie Long, Susie Morrison, and Jamie Robinson to be the first to eat at the counter. The sit-ins initiated by the Greensboro Four, as the A&T students became known, sparked a movement that spread like wildfire to the 55 other cities and 13 states. While student leaders were gratified by the relatively quick victories, the NAACP and SCLC leaders were vexed. They viewed the sit-ins as an incursion into their own well-staked-out territory of Black advocacy. Notwithstanding these objections, the NAACP and SCLC officials were eager to find out more about the student movement. Baker contacted the student leaders on behalf of SCLC and opened a dialogue with them. Initially, King lobbied to incorporate the sit-in movement into SCLC. The NAACP also made an overture, but the students chose to remain autonomous. Baker agreed with them. She summed up the resulting friction this way. I think the basic reason for the reactions of the NAACP and SCLC to the students is the fact that they elected to be independent, and they exercised the independence in ways that only young people can. They were open to ideas that would not have been tolerated by either the NAACP or SCLC. Roy Wilkins, the NAACP executive director, was extremely harsh in his criticism, saying that they don't take orders from anybody, they don't consult anybody, they operate in a kind of vacuum. When the headlines are gone, he continued, the issues still have to be settled in court. The students, however, refused to be browbeaten by the NAACP and SCLC leaders. They would chart their own course. From the outset, it was apparent to Baker that the students lacked the organizing skills, leadership experience, or political sophistication to sustain the movement that spawned. Baker also knew that her expertise could help them and offered it at a conference convened at Raleigh in the spring. An $800 grant from the SCLC covered the cost. The conference convened on Easter weekend, April 15th to 17th, 1960, at Shaw University, Baker's alma mater. She was hoping for not more than, say, 100 and some of the leadership of the sit-ins, as we had called it from the newspapers and so forth. It ended up with about 300 or more people. Delegates representing 58 sit-in centers and additional delegates from 19 northern colleges attended. The fact that Martin Luther King Jr. had jointly signed the letter of invitation would be speaking was an enormous draw. As described in the letter of invitation, students would have the opportunity to share experience gained in recent protest demonstrations and to help chart future goals for effective action. Students exchanged ideas, renewed friendships, and explored the possibilities for future actions. By the end, a decision had been made to found their own organization, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC. Baker knew that it was important for the students to meet adults on an equal footing and not be manipulated or dominated by them, as the SNCC leaders anticipated would happen if they were under the umbrella of an established organization. In an article entitled Bigger Than a Hamburger, Baker applauded the idealism of the students and made the case that their protest was about more than a hamburger and a Coke. The protesters sought ambitiously to rid America of the scourge of racial segregation and discrimination. She confessed that many schools and communities had not provided adequate experience for young Negroes to assume initiative and think and act independently, which accentuated the need for guarding the student movement against well-meaning but nevertheless unhealthy overprotectiveness. Baker hoped, ideally, that both the adults who engaged with the students and the young activists themselves would, in the end, develop each individual to his highest potential for the benefit of the group. SNCC was without financial resources, so Baker provided office space at the Atlanta headquarters of SCLC. The first official meeting convened there on May 13 through 14, 1960, with a group of 11 students in attendance. Baker also recruited Jane Stembridge, the daughter of a white Baptist minister and student at Union Theological Seminary in New York City, to run the office. Stembridge, who interrupted her seminary studies to become the first SNCC staff member, wrote a friend saying, "I came here because I, too, needed to be free, respected, understood. Being white doesn't answer your problems. Being able to go in anywhere does not end your needs." James Lawson, a divinity school student at Vanderbilt University, who served as a Southern Director of the Congress of Racial Equality, CORE, drafted a statement of purpose positioning SNCC as a nonviolent protest movement. The statement declared, "We affirm the philosophical or religious ideal of nonviolence as the foundation of our purpose, the presupposition of our faith, and the manner of our action. Nonviolence, as it grows from Judeo-Christian traditions, seeks a social order of justice permeated by love. Integration of human endeavor represents the crucial first step towards such a society. The commitment to nonviolent principles, however, would diminish as the Black Power advocates assumed leadership of SNCC in the mid-1960s. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Kendall Cheek, and I am a sophomore at Shaw University. Today, I will be reading from I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. When Bailey was 6 and I a year younger, we used to rattle off the times tables with the speed I was later to see Chinese children in San Francisco employ under abacuses. Our summer gray, pot-bellied stove bloomed rosy red during the winter and became a severe disciplinarian threat if we were so foolish as to indulge in making mistakes. Uncle Willie used to sit like a giant black Z. He had been crippled as a child, and hear us testify to the Lafayette County Training School's abilities. His face pulled down on the left side as if a pulley had been attached to his lower teeth, and his left hand was only a mite bigger than Bailey's. But on the second mistake, or on the third hesitation, his big, overgrown right hand would catch one of us behind the collar, and in the same moment would thrust the culprit toward the dull red heater, which throbbed like a devil's toothache. We were never burned, although once I might have been when I was so terrified I tried to jump onto the stove to remove the possibility of its remaining a threat. Like most children, I thought if I could face the worst danger voluntarily and triumph, I would forever have power over it. But in my case of sacrificial effort, I was thwarted. Uncle Willie held tight to my dress, and I only got close enough to smell the clean, dry scent of hot iron. We learned the times tables without understanding their grand principle, simply because we had the capacity and no alternative. The tragedy of lameness seems so unfair to children that they are embarrassed in its presence. And they most recently, off nature's mold, sense that they have only narrowly missed being another of her jokes. In relief at the narrow escape, they vent their emotions in impatience and criticism of the unlucky cripple. Mama related times without end and without any show of emotion. How Uncle Willie had been dropped when he was 3 years old by a woman who was minding him. She seemed to hold no rancor against the babysitter, nor for her just God who allowed the accident. She felt it necessary to explain over and over again to those who knew the story by heart that he wasn't born that way. In our society, where two-legged, two-armed, strong Black men were able at best to eke out only the necessities of life, Uncle Willie, with his starched shirts, shine shoes, and shelves full of food, was the whipping boy and butt of jokes of the underemployed and underpaid. Fate not only disabled him, but laid a double-tiered barrier in his path. He was also proud and sensitive. Therefore, he couldn't pretend that he wasn't crippled. Nor could he deceive himself that people were not repelled by his defect. Only once in all the years of trying not to watch him, I saw him pretend to himself and others that he wasn't lame. Coming home from school one day, I saw a dark car in our front yard. I rushed in to find a strange man and woman. Uncle Willie said later they were school teachers from Little Rock, drinking Dr. Pepper in the cool of the store. I sensed a wrongness around me, like an alarm clock that had gone off without being set. I knew it couldn't be the strangers. Not frequently, but often enough, travelers pulled off the main road to buy tobacco or soft drinks in the only Negro store in Stamps. When I looked at Uncle Willie, I knew what was pulling my mind's coattails. He was standing erect behind the counter, not leaning forward or resting on the small shelf that had been built for him. Erect, his eyes seemed to hold me with a mixture of threats and appeal. I dutifully greeted the strangers and roamed my eyes around for his walking stick. It was nowhere to be seen. He said, this, my niece. She's just come from school. Then to the couple, you know how children are these days. They play all day at school and can't wait to get home and play some more. The people smiled very friendly. He added, "Go out and play, sister." The lady laughed in a soft Arkansas voice and said, "Well, you know, Mr. Johnson, they say you're only a child once. Have you children of your own?" Uncle Willie looked at me with an impatience I hadn't seen in his face, even when he took 30 minutes to loop the laces over his high-top shoes. I thought I told you to go outside and play. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is my pleasure to be able to close us out today, and I would like to start with a round of applause for the students from Shaw University. Thank you. And thank yourselves for staying, for experiencing today some of the wonderful words, literature, and visual arts of African Americans. My name is Dr. Valerie Ann Johnson. I'm Dean of Arts, Sciences, and Humanities at Shaw University, and happy to be in that new position. I was formerly a professor at Bennett College, and I also chair the African American Heritage Commission. We also should thank our team, the young women, Angela Thorpe, Kima Lassiter, Dare Coulter, all have helped to bring this together. Sheila, is around the corner. They did a fantastic job of once again having this read-in. So let's thank them as well. They're staying hidden. And all of our state employees who've come together. Thank you, our state librarian, to do this. I am going to read just briefly, because we're about at that time, 4 o'clock, and I appreciate that we are coming to the close, something from Pauli Murray. She wrote prolifically, and one of my favorite books that she's written is Dark Testament and Other Poems. I love her poetry. And she was able to capture in her poetry not only her life, but the life of being Black in the United States at a particular and peculiar time. So I will start with the opening poem, and I will read just that one. Take off. Freedom is a dream, haunting as amber wine, or worlds remembered out of time. Not Eden's gate, but freedom lures us down a trail of skulls where men forever crashed the dreamers, never the dream. I was an Israelite walking a sea bottom. I was a Negro slave following the North Star. I was an immigrant huddled in ship's belly. I was a Mormon searching for a temple. I was a refugee clogging roads to nowhere. Always the dream was the same. Always the dream was freedom. America was a new dream and a new world for dreaming. America was the vast, leaping Gulliver of the globe. America was the dream of freedom. But the dream was lost when campfires grew. The Bible twisted as white men threw the redskins back to Mountain Pass. The senses dulled with whiskey flask. The arrow broken by searing lead. Better to die, the red man said. The white slave ran away too soon, followed the path of dying moon, a face forgotten in frontier shack, where none asked questions, few turned back. Here was a place where a man could stand, holding a free earth in a scrawny hand. Here was a world where freedom was won by the hand on an axe, the hand on a gun. Free earth hungered for free men, but free men so hungered for gold. Planters bargained with traders. Traders bargained with slavers. Slavers turned toward Africa. The dream was lost in the quest for gold. The men of Africa were stalwart men, tough as hickory deep in their primal forests, their skins the color of tree bark, ebony, bamboo, coconut, mango. Their hair was thick with jungle. Their eyes were dark as star-fed night. They were sly and cunning, fearless and cool. They knew the cry of every forest bird and beast. Smelters of iron, carvers of wood and ivory, weavers and potters of intricate design, followers of the honeybird to the honey tree, hunters of antelope, lion and elephant. Some were gentle tribes and some were fiercely brave. Warriors of the poisoned spear, testing their strength in battle man for man. And when they killed the foe, they ate his heart to make themselves invincible. Storytellers all refusing to be hurried, who nightly by the village fires recalled their tribal history, evoked ancestral heroes, imbued their young with pride in every task, no matter what its import, signaled a joyous song and tribal dance. O black warrior, hurl a dark spear of song, born on a night wind, piercing the sorrow-haunted darkness, perpetual cycle of grief, cruel legacy of endless betrayal, frenzied anger beating against impenetrable walls of silence. Ours is no bedtime story children beg to hear. No heroes rode down the night to warn our sleeping villages. Ours is a tale of blood-streaked walking the Atlantic, from Africa to Barbados, from Haiti to Massachusetts, from Rhode Island to Virginia, from the red clay of Georgia to Requiem in Memphis, from swampy graves in Mississippi to the morgues of Detroit, ours is a tale of charred and blackened fruit, aborted harvest dropped from blazing bough, a tale of eagles exiled from the nest, brooding and hovering on the edge of sky, a somber shadow on this native earth, yet no faint tremor of her breast eludes the circle of our hungered eye. And I will end on an upbeat. She always gives us something to think about. And she calls it Color Trouble. She wrote it in February 1938. If you dislike me because my face has more of sun than yours, then when you see me, turn and run, but do not try to bar the sun. And with that, I like to end our reading, our read-in. Angela, do you have any last remarks and words? I think this was just a wonderful way to celebrate and to send out Black History Month. And to remember, Black History is really 365 days in the year, or 366 this year. And thank you.
Yes. Thank you all again. Just my final note is that we do once again have books to give away out in this area right outside the theater. So any book you see that is not my NC from A to Z, that is not my NC from A to Z, you may take with you. Thank you all for joining us today. Have a good afternoon. And thank you to Pure Life Theater again for this space.